Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Germantown. My name is Margaret Thompson and my pronouns are she and her. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation united in common purpose to make love real in our lives and in the world. We are diverse in our beliefs, atheist and agnostic, believers and seekers. And we welcome you here no matter your race, your class, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your family structure, your job, or your health. Here we know that no matter our differences, we are connected by the interdependent web of life. Whether this is your first, 5th, or 15th visit, we invite you to introduce yourself to someone at the welcome table. They will be happy to answer any questions you have about the congregation or Unitarian Universalism. Please complete a visitor card and join us for fellowship and coffee in the Edna Jones Assembly Room after the service. Just follow the crowd. As we work to widen access to our community, please note that there are large print hymnals available at the front of the sanctuary. Listening-assisted devices can be picked up from the sound desk. We have an elevator for those who need assistance going up and down. Just ask an usher where to find it. It's tucked away where it could be added to the existing building. And longtime members, if you thought none of this applied to you, as our community grows, please wear your name tag. It allows us to greet one another warmly and genuinely. I have several announcements for the coming week. You may have noticed that the spaces for 3 of our stained glass windows are boarded up. On August 25th, USG's 3rd stained glass window restoration project in recent years began. Expect to see the stained glass windows return in late September or early October, looking better than ever. For more details about the restoration project, see this week's communicator. This coming Tuesday, September 2nd, a local unhoused family will be moving into the Bristol Room through our partnership with Family Promise of Philadelphia. Please welcome Bobby Willie and Edward Morning and their 3 children, ages 4, 5, and 6, if you see them around the building. The Bristol Room will be closed to the congregation while being used as a private residence, so our designated gender-neutral restrooms will be unavailable. We've redesignated our bathrooms off the dining room as all gender. A support group for persons with disabilities is forming. It will be a safe, welcoming space to share stories, challenges, grief, hope, coping strategies, and resources. A space to relax and share without judgment. It will be meeting this Tuesday, September 2nd, via Zoom. Contact Disabilities Group at usguu.org for the Zoom link. Food donations for St. Vincent's Food Pantry are needed. Please bring whatever you can by Sunday, September 7th, so we can have a trunk full to deliver on Tuesday, September 9th. Let's continue to make every donation a bountiful one. And most importantly, next Sunday, September 7th, Reverend Hannah is back in the pulpit. Join us as we enter the new church year together in this multi-generational service featuring water communion. Bring water from your summer adventures to contribute. And now, as we deepen into worship, I ask that you silence your cell phones and allow yourself to be present for this hour. But please, don't silence your children. Their sounds are welcome here.
Good morning. My name is Stearns Matthews. My pronouns are he, him, and I serve this congregation as its Director of Music Ministries. Our call to worship this morning is by Elizabeth Mount, and it's called The Church Incarnate. Come into this place, bringing all you hold with you, though your heart be heavily burdened. Whether you be on the brink of tears or burn with unquenchable rage, this community can hold you and your strongest emotions. Yes, even the messy ones are welcome here. Come in if you sing just a bit too loud, if you hold still as statues and just breathe it in, if you sway to the music moving your soul, you are welcome. Come in and say amen when the Spirit moves you. Tell that preacher to preach. Yes, that's right. Tell us. Or just close your eyes and quietly let your mind float free on the blessed words. Come into this place with every piece of yourself gathered up, and let us be the church incarnate. Let us bring forth the Spirit of all that we love by the words of our mouths and the doing of our hands as we make sacred this time together. Welcome.
I'm particularly struck by the line in the hymn that talks about the drudge and the idler. I've never belonged to a union. Like my parents, I worked salaried, knowledge-based jobs. I did work as a lab tech where there was a movement to unionize the non-professional staff, which included me, but I left to go to graduate school before there was a vote. So my experiences in the working world have been limited. That said, I have been a spiritual seeker for most of my life, and it has been the people I've gotten to know in that journey have reminded me of how my choices affect my choices as a consumer of goods and services affects the people who provide them. It has motivated me to learn about other people's work experiences. I learned about valuing the labor of those who grow or make, process, and provide the things we buy. I learned to pay attention to the working conditions of service providers. I advocate for a living wage and the right to organize. I'm also aware that businesses that claim to be green or sustainable or diverse may not treat their employees fairly. I listen to news coverage of businesses and to how the media does or does not provide context for phrases like right to work and K-shaped economic recovery. I read the wisdom of activists who reframe the economic narrative and get at what's really going on. As a Unitarian Universalist, I value interdependence, equity, and justice. Belonging to USG helps me work to make these beliefs a part of my daily practice. We share the plate this Sunday with Lift Every Voice Philly. Lift Every Voice is a Black-led, multiracial organization building parent power to transform Philly schools by advancing racial, economic, and education justice. This group is our Share the Plate recipient through September 13th. Please give generously, as we have found that the more we give away, the more that comes our way. To give in cash or check, please place it in the plate as the ushers come by. To give by text, please follow the instructions in your order of service.
I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake City, Joe, says I, him standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe, I didn't die. And standing there as big as life, a-smilin' with his eyes, says Joe, what they can never kill went on to organize. went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
At this time, we invite you to contribute your joys and sorrows to the bowls of water at the front of the sanctuary. Please choose a smooth stone or a pebble and place it in the water, absorbing your pain or rippling out with your joy. Sterns will play as we process. Carla will place a pebble for Jody Hill and her spouse, John Cohen. Jody's sister, Susan, who had been living with them, died this week after a brief illness. We hold Jody and John in our hearts. Carla will place a pebble for the families of the children killed at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, as well as for the children and seniors who were injured and their loved ones. Now Carla will place one smooth stone and one pebble into the water on behalf of those joining online. Please remain seated and join in singing hymn 123 and the hardback hymnal, Spirit of Life, after which we will share in a moment of silence.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Our prayer today is Our Lifelong Work of Liberation by Dana Edwards. Spirit of life and love, times are tough and trepidation swirls in our hearts. Groceries are expensive and our paychecks don't go as far as they used to. Incendiary words drip off the lips of our politicians and sow division in our nation. People we loved are lost to hateful rhetoric and dubious conspiracy theories. And still there is hope. Through generations, our democracy has been threatened, questioned, and buffeted. Our government has not always lived up to its ideal of freedom for all. We are grateful for all those organizers, journalists, freedom fighters, clergy, and regular people who knew that the people of our nation are called to do better and be better. Those like Grace Lee Boggs, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, Dolores Huerta, Harriet Tubman, Viola Liuzzo, and so many others who knew that freedom isn't free, who saw the deep and intricate connections of the human web, who cared enough to show up and keep showing up, who loved the people of this nation enough to keep fighting for who we could be. They gave us hope. They gave us hope that even though our democracy isn't perfect, striving toward excellence in the way we care for the people of this nation, serve the people of this nation, and govern the people of this nation is a worthy and noble cause. Our faith gives us hope, a faith that knows that transformation is a holy and sacred task, that affirms that the democratic process that brings a generous heart and a lens of justice and liberation to all that we do, that values equality and equity and is centered in love. Our love gives us hope, a revolutionary love that challenges us to find the worth and dignity in those with whom we disagree, love that inspires us to amplify the voices that are often silenced, love that holds us when the work of liberation seems so daunting, a love so big it bears the heavy weight of complex humans with ease. Spirit of life, may love, hope, and wisdom guide us in our lifelong work toward liberation. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. My name is Keith Kratz. Pronouns are he and his. I want to say first that I started coming here in about 2020. This is the first time I've been up here on this, what do we call this, on this stage, whatever we call it. So I'm very excited today. I'm presently on the board acting as its secretary. So this, what I'll be reading is a statement from the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, who's the previous president of the UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association. It's called Unitarian Universalists Honor Workers' Dignity and Support the Labor Movement. The UUA unequivocally sides with the inspiring labor resurgence happening. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say this was made in 2022. The UUA unequivocally sides with the inspiring labor resurgence happening in workplaces across the country. As Unitarian Universalists, we have long believed that challenging inequity locally and globally for workers is a moral imperative. As a pragmatic faith, we are committed to working to change economic and social systems with the goal of equitable outcomes of life, dignity, and well-being experienced for all. The labor movement is critical to creating and strengthening an economic system that is fair and that addresses the economic injustices we know have been experienced by BIPOC individuals, low-wage workers across sectors and across gender and sexual orientations. We have worked together with diverse partners to ensure that the rights of workers are protected, and we will continue to do so. In 2000, we adopted a statement of conscience on economic injustice, poverty, and racism, and another statement of conscience in 2017 to address escalating economic inequality. And just last year, our National Unitarian Universalist General Assembly passed an action of witness on the COVID-19 pandemic, understanding that our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion calls us to join in solidarity with people fighting for living wages, healthcare, and a more fair economy. Since then, we have shown up at the Poor People's Campaign actions with Service Employees International Union, low-wage workers, and faith leaders. Last year, I and other UU clergy and lay leaders were among 70 people who engaged in civil disobedience demanding $15 an hour minimum wage, an end to poverty, and protection of voting rights. UUs have joined mutual aid networks and continue to organize to advocate for passage of the PRO Act, Protecting Our Right to Organize, which would empower union organizers at work, upgrade contractors to employee status, override state, quote, right to work, unquote, laws, fine employers who try to stop unions, and more. Our work is far from done. Across the country, we see continued attacks on the right to organize, which violates UU beliefs around interdependence and the inalienable rights inherent in the democratic process that we hold dear. For example, Tennessee legislators have put a right-to-work measure on the midterm ballot, and in Massachusetts, technology companies have mounted a huge attack on gig workers, putting millions of dollars into a ballot measure that would undermine workplace protections. And so we must also act to protect workers, to resist unfettered capitalism, to create a more just economic system, and to ensure the rights of all, including Black, Indigenous, people of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Today we are witnessing a growing labor movement built by and for working class people that is pushing back against a system of exploitative capitalism that concentrates wealth in the hands of a few people. It is a movement coming alive from the bravery and brilliance of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, women, LGBTQIA+, undocumented immigrants, and poor and disabled communities. Poverty is a choice. Together we can pass legislation that honors workers' dignity, values labor, and holds the quality of every life as sacred.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carla Campbell. I use the pronoun she, her, and I'm president of the Board of Trustees. Today I will talk about Labor Day, the labor movement, and Unitarian Universalism, a suggested topic by one of our board members. Originally, we had planned for the full board to present this service, but a number of members thought it would be better to present a service after we have our fall retreat, where we will be discussing our board goals for the upcoming year. So stay tuned for such a service in the future. Fortunately, we have a few board members contributing to today's service as well. So happy Labor Sunday. What is that? The Sunday prior to Labor Day was adopted at an American Federation of Labor convention as Labor Sunday, dedicated to the educational and spiritual aspects of the labor movement. What is Labor Day? How was it created? And why should it matter to UUs? Before it was declared a federal holiday, it was celebrated and recognized by labor activists as a day to celebrate labor. By 1894, 23 states had adopted the holiday. It became a federal holiday on June 28, 1894, after Congress had passed an act making the first Monday in September designated as Labor Day, and it was signed into law by President Grover Cleveland. This was in the wake of a strike in May 1894 by employees of the Pullman Palace Car Company in Chicago, who were protesting wage cuts and the firing of union representatives. On June 26, the American Railway Union called for a boycott of all Pullman railway cars, which crippled railroad traffic across the country. The federal government sent troops to Chicago to break the Pullman strike, which led to riots and the deaths of more than a dozen workers. Another incident occurring in 1886, the Haymarket riot, also led to several workers and Chicago policemen being killed. In light of all this civil unrest, the government declared the creation of Labor Day. What were working conditions like in the late 1800s on that first Labor Day? This was at the height of the Industrial Revolution. The average worker worked 12 to 16 hours a day and 7 days a week in order to make a modest living, many families barely supporting themselves. There were no paid holidays or vacation time. Many jobs were low-paying and physically demanding. Children as young as 5 or 6 years old labored in factories, mills, farms, and mines across the nation, earning much less than their adult counterparts. Having their children work was a necessity for some families to earn enough to live on. This occurred before federal child labor laws, although some states had restrictions. In the late 1800s, many workers, but particularly recent immigrants and the very poor, faced unsafe working conditions with little access to breaks, sanitary facilities, and fresh air. Many workers had few rights, and there was little oversight of workplaces by the government. Labor unions first appeared in the late 18th century and grew more vocal as manufacturing jobs became more common. Agricultural employment lessened and farmers migrated to cities and towns to work in factories and mines. The history of the American labor movement is a long one that could not possibly fit into such a short sermon, but is worth looking into. And of course, through the years, it was the work of unions and the American labor movement that helped to change these workplace conditions. A further word about workplace conditions: many factories were dirty and dangerous. In textile mills, spinning machines were often left unguarded and posed a serious risk of injury. Some factories lacked windows or proper ventilation and became very hot, causing risks to the health of the workers. There was no workers' compensation, as there is today for those workers injured on the job and unable to work afterward. Regarding child labor, Congress passed the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, in 1938, regulating the employment of those under 18 years of age. According to the current U.S. Department of Labor, states have their own specific rules for child labor. And that's, when we talk of child labor, we're essentially talking of teenagers and older. Individual states have a wide range of restrictions on labor by minors, often requiring work permits for those still enrolled in middle and high school, limiting the times and hours that minors can work by age, and imposing additional safety regulations. For regular full-time work permits or employment certificates are issued in states to children before they may go to work. No certifications are required for agriculture, street trades, and work in private households. However, while the 1938 labor law placed limits on many forms of child labor, agricultural labor is covered by state-specific laws about employment during and after school hours. As a result, a 2012 article indicated that approximately 500,000 children pick almost a quarter of the food currently produced in the United States. The U.S. Department of Labor has a list of dangerous jobs that cannot be held by youth under 18 years, It also has a list of state child labor requirements. Pennsylvania, for instance, requires an employment certificate for workers under 18. As a pediatrician, you can imagine how this past maltreatment of children impacted me. And I've read reports that some employers are still exploiting child laborers in the US today, but that's another story for another time. Today, there exists the entity of occupational medicine, in which my husband Ron and I are both trained, which seeks to protect workers from workplace injuries and illnesses. Many illnesses can result from workplace exposure. To name a few, there's lead poisoning, black lung from coal mining, scarring of the lungs from asbestos exposure, and various cancers from asbestos exposure and other toxic substances. Many large companies have workplace occupational physicians and nurses to attend to the workforce, and there are hospital-based and freestanding clinics offering care to workers who are injured or think they've become ill on the job. Workers' compensation covers many employees that have work-related injuries or illnesses for medical expenses and lost wages. The Federal Occupational Health and Safety Administration, or OSHA, administers the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Safety and health conditions in most private industries are regulated by OSHA or OSHA-approved state plans. So there's much more focus on and regulation of the workplace now than on that first Labor Day. However, many of these regulations, including a shorter workday and minimum wage laws, were hard-earned through years of struggle by workers in the labor movement. And we must struggle to make sure that these regulations are honored and stay intact. UU commitment to working people and the labor movement. Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray reminded us of Unitarian Universalist commitment to justice for working people and the labor movement in her essay in 2022. Our current UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, has not issued a similar statement that I could find, but has written a book about Black women, labor, and environmental ethics upon building of the Panama Canal, which I think indicates her interest in this area. I now want to read selected words from a union organizer and her reason for becoming a UU. This is entitled Faith Journey, a Union Organizer Finds Unitarian Universalism, written by Rachel Bennett Stoury and was published online on August 11th of this year. 13 years ago, I discovered Unitarian Universalism in a union hall in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The Carpenters Union hosted the monthly meeting of the Northeast Indiana Central Labor Council. And that August, a Teamster named Jim Reeder announced his church was doing a Labor Day service about the infamous Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which in 1911 killed scores of garment workers and helped foster support for labor unions. I was puzzled at the thought of a church attempting in any way to talk about my people. My relationship with religion had been a rocky one throughout my life. So how would a church pull off a sermon about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire and do those workers justice? The fire was one of the deadliest industrial disasters in U.S. history. Immigrant women and girls paid just 14 cents an hour, worked at the Manhattan textile mill. The boss locked them inside the 10-story building because he thought it would prevent them from stealing merchandise or organizing a union. When a fire engulfed the factory and fire truck ladders were too short to reach the workers, 146 of them perished, many by jumping to their deaths to escape the flames. Their story inspired activists across the country to demand workplace safety and labor law reform. I had never heard of Unitarian Universalism before Jim invited us to his church. I was confused at what could possibly connect this group of religious people to workers and justice. At the UU congregation of Fort Wayne that Sunday, my idea of church was turned on its head. Reverend Jenny Barrington spoke about workers' rights and justice in a way that encouraged exploration of the past, but also an understanding of what work lay ahead to prevent it from happening again to another marginalized group. I had never expected to witness church and justice intersect as I did that day. Since then, my exposure and experience with this religion in every pocket of the country has been eye-opening. Thanks to Jim and his congregation for the warm welcome of a young and skeptical union organizer. So, working conditions have improved considerably since the creation of Labor Day in 1894, yet we still hear of less than ideal working conditions in some workplaces and see strikes in Philadelphia and across the nation today, as well as struggles to organize workers such as those working for Starbucks or Trader Joe's. In March 2025, President Trump signed an executive order instructing many federal agencies to end collective bargaining with many federal unions. The administration also filed a lawsuit against the American Federation of Government Employees for the purpose of invalidating existing federal collective bargaining agreements between federal unions and federal agencies. Already, some federal agencies are seeking to end their contracts with unions, and we have seen the firing of thousands of federal workers. So we must be vigilant in following attacks on and setbacks for the labor movement. In conclusion, I hope we can continue our UU support for labor that past President Reverend Susan Frederick Ray so eloquently expressed in our reading today. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit for congregational hymn 318 in the hardcover hymnal, "We Would Be One." As we extinguish our chalice, please join me in the unison words printed in your order of service. We extinguish our chalice, but the flame remains in us as we live into the mission of this congregation, building beloved community with compassion, service, and empowerment.
My name is Mare Helferty. I'm an adult human female, and I'm the board vice president in the coming year. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we've been waiting for.